All right, welcome. The gong is on. Begin the gong show. We're live. This is the 33rd episode of Dads and Ed. We are quickly approaching our own ages, actually. Not quite there yet, but we're getting there. My name is Josh Allen. Excited to be here. Excited to get us all ready for Mother's Day. If Devin screws up this Mother's Day, there is absolutely no hope for him.
No. Might not be, but
it's beside the point. That's a whole other show and a whole other podcast. My name is Josh Allen, Tech Integration Specialist outside of Omaha. I have 3 wonderful kids, 7, 4, and 2, and a beautiful wife who I have some ideas for Mother's Day. Have not purchased anything yet. So, but it's on the agenda. So, joining me as always, Brent.
Yes, Brent Catlett here from Kansas City, Missouri, Independent School District. My amazing wife Josie and I have 5 children. Basically a full house and good times here at my home. Looking forward to the show tonight.
Last but not least,
I'd say the way that I know that it's a Dads and Ed show, like it's a Monday where we have a show, is because Claire wears her the panda pajamas. Otherwise, I
wasn't even thinking about it today, and I just happened to wear them.
All right, you want to do this?
Sure.
All right.
Hi, my name is Claire. This is my dad. I have a mom who is also going to be in the show today. And I have a sister, and I have 2 pets, Buster and Miley, and I have an annoying bird named Yoshi.
Terribly annoying bird.
And Yoshi just laughed at that.
Yeah, he did just laugh at that. And he's yeah. What do I do? Like, what's my job?
Your job is a K-12 constructional technology coach.
Constructional technology. That is
some sort of.
There are new.
All right. Yes. I don't know. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Why do we have all these kids?
I don't.
I'm a K-12 instructional technology coach in Council Bluffs schools in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So yes, this is Claire, Gracie, our other daughter, who we'll talk about a little later. And Erin will be on the show in just a bit. The most wonderful wife a man could ever ask for. So.
That's good. I don't know in the first 32 shows that you've said that. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, I don't know if she's watching. I know she's watching this one. So.
Yeah, she watches like every show.
All right.
All right, so if you want to get in touch with the show, as always, check out our Twitter account out at Dads and Ed. Use the hashtag Dads and Ed. It's been really cool to see, some other people, some people that we've had on in the past, and some other educators who are also dads that, have at least follow the show. Use that for different things. I know. I don't know if we brought it up on the show. Tom Murray had put a post out. I think we did talk about it. About how his daughter, wasn't doing too well, and I think peanut allergies, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But had tweeted out about it, and use that hashtag for that stuff too. So by all means, connect with us there. But we keep tabs on it during the breaks too. On Google Plus, we are Plus Dads and Ed. If you want to tell your friends about the show and they can't watch it live, you can go to dadsanded.podbean.com. or subscribe at iTunes by searching Dads and Ed. So today is Monday. If you remember early April, we talked about is early April the best time of the year because you have the NCAA tournament ending, you have baseball starting, it was Masters Week. So this weekend got billed as another huge sports weekend because you had Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I'm sorry, Game 7 of the first round of the NBA playoffs with the Spurs and the Los Angeles Clippers, which was a great series, especially for the first round of the NBA. You had golf going on. You had the Kentucky Derby, kind of a big deal, as you all know. And you also had one of the bigger boxing matches of the year between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. So the debate all over sports radio today is this one of the greatest sports weekends ever? And it's not a recurring one, obviously. The Derby is recurring. You will typically have the NBA playoffs going on about this time, but your guys' opinion. Was it a great sports weekend or just kind of, yeah, okay. Devin, what do you think?
I think it was a great sports weekend in terms of build-up, and it had the potential to be a really great sports weekend. I'm not sure it played out that way, mostly because of how the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight went down. But, I listened to something on the radio today, and they were talking about those two events in particular, the fight and the Kentucky Derby. And what they were saying was, those are both sports that a majority of the population don't tune into the rest of the year. And so, for Mayweather-Pacquiao especially, where boxing, was once one of the premier sports in the country, has lost a lot of that over the past probably couple of decades, really. And then you had this opportunity where all these people were going to tune into this fight that had mega hype, and then it didn't live up to it. And most people can't name more than a couple of boxers probably, and maybe the same true for the Kentucky Derby, where you really can't name anybody. You might be able to name a trainer, maybe an owner, like a Bob Baffert or someone. Maybe that's even too obscure for most people. But you have these kind of weird couple of sporting events that happen on this day, and not sure it ended up being as big. It certainly didn't, I don't think, live up to maybe the hype of being greatest sports day in recent history. I don't know. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm with you. I don't think it was the greatest in history. There were some great things lined up that day, and certainly as a sports fan, you had the fix of a lot of options. But all I heard about the fight was it was totally boring and not eventful, and we were expecting Pacquiao to be aggressive, and he wasn't. And you had Mayweather as this aggressive defender of that, and I didn't see any of the fight, but didn't spend any money on it or go anywhere to see it. But I don't know, those days, the days of like Mike Tyson and the hype around that, some of those battles back when I was younger, those were the days, and George Foreman and Evander Holyfield. There were some great boxers back then. It seemed like there was more interest in the sport back then, maybe than there is today. So I don't know. I feel like they were kind of drawing at straws. I also got to be honest. I had a little issue with the whole I'm already probably saying his name wrong. Who was the not Pacquiao, but Mayweather? Mayweather. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just felt like I was confusing myself. Anyway, that gentleman, I was having trouble with some of the reports about the domestic abuse and some of that, and I don't know. I just have issue with athletes that can't be upstanding citizens, and it's bothersome to me. So for me personally too, I think I was just really disinterested for that reason as well.
I kind of felt like the boxing community was grasping at straws a little bit with this one. I mean, Mayweather gets $120 million or whatever for fighting, and Pacquiao got 105 or something like that. But anyone who knows anything about boxing knows, and I don't. Well, let me start with that. But Mayweather he's not aggressive. He wears you down. He hasn't had a KO, I think they said, since 2009. That's 6 years of not having a KO. And yeah, he's undefeated. And yeah, this is probably the toughest person that he had. But you weren't going to get a Mike Tyson. You weren't going to get an Evander Holyfield. And I agree, Brent. Like, that's the boxing that was the last time I was interested in boxing.
Right.
And someone else said today, heavyweights don't do that. I will say, Omaha has been pretty hyped for Bud Crawford, who's a local guy who's holds a belt now, but I can't tell you which division he's in. So I think that locally it's getting a little bit more exciting. But I agree. I'm still not interested in boxing. I'm still not really all that interested in MMA in general. Not that those two are the same, but the whole violent beating each other up.
Yeah,
I'm not that kind of a guy.
and I can appreciate a good Kentucky Derby, and I know growing up with Exarban in Omaha, my dad had an interest in that, and I remember uncles and going there as a kid. Like that's something I can appreciate. I know it's on. There's a lot of hype around that until the actual race, of course. So it's like one of those things if you just tune in at the right time. And but as far as the best day in history, I'd argue that it wasn't for me anyway. But
Yeah, and I just want to add, I guess, a little bit the boxing part. I am, I kind of enjoy boxing. I've watched boxing since I was a kid. I remember sitting and watching boxing with my grandpa and scoring rounds and scoring fights, and we really kind of watched quite a bit. And that's nuance the conversation probably takes place is this idea of Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao and the way that fight went down, and really if you pay attention, if people pay attention to boxing, you looked at every expert that picked the fight, almost to a T, predicted what would happen, because that's the way that Floyd boxes, and I think there's a real distinct difference between boxer and fighter, and what Floyd Mayweather does as a boxer, well, it's not the fighting thing in the world, does some really amazing things, and the way he control distance and defend like nobody else. They are really actually kind of cool things. And speaking of just watching it, I just want to see you guys that I was on my way to Lincoln. We had a hotel for the night before the half marathon the next morning, and so I didn't purchase the fight, but I did watch it on Periscope. Watched the last about 5 rounds on Periscope for free, and I read a thing today that said. Periscope compared Periscope as being the new Napster, with kind of illegally streaming or downloading stuff. What do you guys think about that? And I know Periscope is fairly new, but what are your thoughts on that?
That's actually how I watched the fight too. I'm not. Well, we don't have cable, so I really don't know how I would have bought it anyway. And I know it was like $20 or whatever, and I didn't think about it ahead of time. But as I was watching TV, I got a notification that someone invited me to watch the fight via Periscope. I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens from here on out. It took regulators a few years to get rid of Napster, and so how is that going to translate with the live broadcasting? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do it, because I don't know what you do about it, other than shutting Periscope down. You can't regulate what people are doing on it. So if you didn't see it this way, basically what someone did is they ordered the pay-per-view, they opened the Periscope app, and they just broadcast their TV, and that's pretty much it. And so it's not a great connection, obviously. Just like with Napster, all your songs weren't, I shouldn't say mine, all of my roommate's songs weren't all that great quality that he was putting onto CDs. But it's doable. I mean, like I said, I didn't want to spend the money for it. If I really wanted to watch it, I would have spent the $100 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't say I even saw any of that going on necessarily. Like I said, I wasn't watching any of that, but it's interesting. It's interesting to think about how technology has evolved so fast and so quickly of late, and all these innovative ideas or apps or things come out, and so I don't know. It's just interesting then how that all plays into society, and then how it kind of mainstreams itself, and then education. We're trying to pick up with what can we use of this stuff that's good for us and the kids and all that stuff. It's just very interesting how all of it has grown, and then that gray area of what's appropriate and not, and I think that's a tricky line on a lot of different things.
Shout out to I tweeted the CNN article about Napster and Periscope from the Dad's and Ed account, and shout out to Rob Lindquist at Rob_Lindquist now, rather than that dang goofy name he had before.
Nice. He's owning his name?
Yeah, he owned it finally.
Wow, that's impressive.
That was a NIDA conversation, I believe. I think that's where I first heard about it. That was breaking news at NIDA a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so I missed that. Sorry, Rob. Welcome to the real Rob. Would he please stand up?
He tweeted, so someone took Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, the old video game, 8-bit, and did it put the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight in NES Punch-Out. So I retweeted that too. That is a pretty fabulous video to watch. So
It is. That's awesome.
all right, moving on. Dad moment of the week. Oh, hey, I don't even know how I'm going to invite Erin. Am I inviting Erin in, or is she just going to sit next to you?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Invite her in.
Okay. All right. Well-oiled machine we are.
Yes.
All right. Dad moment of the week. I have to say, I believe I discussed this last time about how well potty training is going for our 2-year-old. I am happy to say, and I will knock on wood, it's still fabulous. We have not had any setbacks. We take her out in public. She actually sleeps through the night without a diaper as a 2.5-year-old.
Wow.
And is not having accidents.
Wow.
I don't know where we adopted her from, but it is fabulous because we're still working on that with our 4-year-old. That seems to be going pretty well too, but it's just been pretty amazing. So I'm not sure what we did other than had a good kid. That's pretty much how we made that happen. So anyway, next up.
Who's up? Right.
Sure, I can go. This weekend, there's this great website down here in Kansas City, kcparent.com, that my wife and I think I stumbled upon it just Google searching things for, to do for family in Kansas City, and came across this great website, kcparent.com, and I've been using it ever since because it's very thorough. It's got all kinds of great stuff on it, things to do, places to research. Anyway, so I came across a marble festival thing going on in a town called Bonner Springs, Kansas, which is, if you're familiar with Kansas City, the border of Kansas and Missouri is very close. There's a state line road and the whole nine. So it was on the Kansas side, just outside of kind of the outskirts of town, and this little town had this really nice little festival for the kids. And so we took the kids there and just had a really good time. They did a little face painting. They had all these different fun activities for the kids to do, and little train rides and things. And I don't know, it's just fun sometimes to just soak that up as a dad and not be thinking about work and worrying about emails and all that sort of stuff, and just be, present and be with them and enjoy those moments, and just had a great time.
Cool. Mine is pretty easy. I just tweeted out a post that I wrote about it, but we ran our half marathon yesterday. Gracie and I and Erin all ran yesterday, and Gracie and I trained together, and we ran together, but as it says in the post, we really didn't. She was really amazing, and finished well ahead of me by about 14 minutes, and it was just a great experience to see her confidence, and she got out ahead of me and stayed ahead of me. It didn't wait for me, didn't slow down, just kind of kept moving, and it was pretty great to see. So I tweeted out the post. It's on Dad's Net hashtag, and if you want to check that out, check it out, because that's really kind of really laid out what happened yesterday. It was a great day.
Devin, I had a chance to read it. Great post. I think your bird there, I forgot the name. He or she had an opinion about that as well.
The stupidest animal ever purchased. Ridiculous. So I'm moving again.
All right. At least we got a tour of the Schoening household. Speaking of a tour of the Schoening household, sitting in the normal seat of Devin Schoening, we are pleased to be joined by our guest for the evening, and the wonderful lady who took one for the rest of the female race and married Devin Schoening. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So,
I'd like to mention that I completely hijacked my way into the show, listening to you guys vox about needing a guest for tonight, and I just pretty much threw myself out there, and you guys took the bait. So
I know. We'll see. We have to keep up with the Run Iowa podcast.
That's right. That's right.
Since you are a guest on there. We hate for Rob to beat us to the punch, but he did.
He did
Um,
indeed.
And
and
just for anybody out there listening, it's as easy as that to get on this show. You just need to.
now,
over
in
here.
all fairness, we had Brett Clark lined up. Brett let us know last week that something had came up with his at church, and he needed to get out. And we totally understand that life happens, and we are gonna get him back in the fall when we come back up. But that's enough about Brett. Let's talk about the person who weaseled her way into the show. Erin, tell us a little bit about yourself. We know you have 2 daughters. We've heard that.
That's right. And you heard about the annoying bird and the 2 dogs and all that stuff too. Yes. So in addition to that, I have been a teacher for 14 years. Spent a good chunk of that teaching kindergarten and first grade. Probably about as much time literacy, reading recovery, literacy coach type positions. And then the last 4 years, I've been half-time program coordinator of the International Baccalaureate Primary Years program at College View. So the other half of my day is spent teaching reading at this point. But so the International Baccalaureate, it's a huge part of what I do every day.
Very cool. Erin, I'm excited to have a peanut gallery guest on. Back in the day when we first started this, you guys were known as the peanut gallery, and I never thought, we would come to this fruition. No, I'm just teasing.
Moving up in the world.
Hey, in all seriousness, tell us in 5 words or less why you have the best husband in the world.
Who wrote that question?
Oh. I don't know if it's 5 words.
Can't come up with 5 words. I mean, I understand.
Okay, I'll say it. He'll do anything I'll do. I am not a wife or a woman that it takes on a traditional gender role. And when it came to when the girls were babies, he changed just as many diapers as I did. In the mornings, our morning routine, he gets the girls up in the morning, he packs the lunches, he gets them breakfast. So he really, as much trouble as we give him, he is definitely a pretty amazing dad and husband. And I think, part of it is we both work, and we essentially work the same hours, both being educators. And so we are pretty good about dividing and conquering. Tonight we got home and I was doing laundry and he was making dinner, and so he'll do anything that I do pretty much. So that's nice.
Way to stick to the script. Good job. Can you, for people who might be listening or watching right now, listening on the podcast later, can you talk a little bit about what International Baccalaureate or IB is, and kind of why you believe in it as much as you do?
Sure. IB in general is for international education, and it started with the diploma years program for high school students, and really it was just like, if we want to send kids off to college anywhere in the world, we want them to be prepared, no matter where they go. And so the whole kind of idea is, what are the things that are out there that are worth knowing? And so it started with the diploma years program, then kind of went backwards to the middle years program, which is basically the middle school version, and then primary years program is the elementary version. And so one of the big things with IB, and one of the reasons I believe in it so much, is it's conceptually based, and it's also inquiry is a huge part of it. And so when we're teaching, we're teaching through a conceptual lens, which means we want what they're learning to be worth knowing. So it needs to be timeless, it needs to be universal, it needs to be abstract, it needs to be transferable. So what they're learning in science, a concept they're learning in science, might also be something, in 4th grade might be something that helps them in social studies in 10th grade. Those big ideas that are worth knowing.
And talking about that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you opt your kids into the school that you are at, correct?
We do, yeah. And, we live in a small community in Underwood, Iowa, and our neighbors love our schools here in Underwood. And, there's a little bit of an appeal there. For me, I went to a private school with small class sizes. And so there was a little bit of an appeal for the smaller school for me. But I really believe in not only the International Baccalaureate program, but the caliber of teachers in Council Bluffs School District. And it says something that we just really have always wanted our children to be part of. By the way, speaking of Council Bluffs, Josh Allen,
Oh,
you do not teach just outside of Omaha. You teach in Council Bluffs. It's time to own up to that. Every week.
okay.
Every week, like, listen.
Now, I realize this is your first time on the show, but we have guests across the country. We're a national podcast.
Yeah.
If you say I'm from Council Bluffs, no one knows where that's at. Let's just be honest.
You could say Council Bluffs, Iowa, just across the river from Omaha, Nebraska.
I will work that into the show.
Okay.
Who invited her? I get enough of this grief from my own wife, Devin. Why do I have to take it from yours too?
I just wanted you to see what I deal with on a daily basis. Kind of thing.
Did you put that on her script too? Dang it.
No, but she told me, I don't know, the last episode or the one before. She's like, why doesn't Josh ever say he's in Council Bluffs? Why does he always say just outside of Omaha? And I said, hey, you got your chance to ask him tonight. So
To be honest, it's because I've done it for 33 episodes. That's what I've always
started
said.
out, you were across the river, so.
And in all fairness, I never said that I was in Papillion during the first 25 or whatever many episodes I was there. So it's nothing against Council Bluffs. I've always just used the larger of the cities that I actually work in. Speaking of which, and actually to get back onto the question that I actually asked, that has been
Was there a question?
There was actually a question. So this has been the first year that I haven't worked in the same district as my kids, and that's actually started out to be kind of a struggle for me because, and obviously my situation is a little different because I moved out, or I'm no longer working in the one where we live. But I just felt so disconnected in what they're doing. I mean, obviously, like you said with the IB program, you obviously believe in it and you know it's a good thing for your kids and so when you're involved and you know what they should be doing and what it is that they are doing, that has actually been kind of a struggle for me. And I was talking to a neighbor about it, and it's like, well, 95% of the world is that way. I was really lucky to be able to teach in the same district as my kids. So I agree with you that it's nice having your kids, where you are, because obviously you believe in it, otherwise you wouldn't be there.
It is, and and it can be a blessing and a curse because sometimes like what should be going on and maybe it's not going on, and it's hard to keep your opinions to yourself. But I would say definitely more good than bad for sure.
I really struggled when my kid went to kindergarten to not give them keep emailing her Matt Gomez links every week when I would get like worksheets home and stuff. But
yeah.
I digress.
And even like, what would you talk about? Like, same district is true. We've talked about lots of things over the years with what our kids are doing in our district, and it's hard to keep yourself from being too opinionated. But also, what about even more kind of on a micro level, having the kids in your building? They go to school with you. Most days they're after school there. Can you talk about the highs and lows of having them in the actual same building?
Sure. So, I mean, the highs are those sentimental mom moments. I remember actually the clearest example that comes to mind is when the Sandy Hook shooting happened, how horrific that was. And I could just go I went to the lunchroom. I remember the kids were in the lunchroom when I found out. And I went in the lunchroom and I gave them a big hug. And I gave a bunch of other kids hugs too, whose moms couldn't be there just because, it was such an emotional event. And, being able just to be there for my kids for a moment like that. Or, when they get sick at school or, so, I don't know, something bad happens. But that's another one of those like high and low moments because a few years ago Gracie had some girl stuff going on, and I'd sit there and like watch her at recess time, where probably I almost had like too much of an inside look at things. Where I was probably worrying about it more than I needed to be, and hyperanalyzing everything. But so it's great to be there for many reasons. The before and after school time. I mean, I guess one of the benefits is I'm with my kids almost as much as like a stay-at-home mom would be of kids our children's ages. But that's good and bad. The other day, I just asked Devin. I said, I don't have anything this morning. I don't have any meetings, but can you just bring the girls? Because I just need a morning to myself. Because I'll have my instructional materials set out, and I share an office with somebody else, and they get there in the morning, and they're fine, and they usually entertain themselves pretty well, but they're messing around and getting into my stuff and being silly and being loud and stuff. So, sometimes I think that can be a negative thing because then my patience is just, wearing pretty thin on them. So.
Very good. Erin, we dads sometimes, I'm changing subjects here a little bit, but we're not the best always at gift giving. And boy, I know there's a lot of listeners out there that would love to know any advice you might have for husbands and dads out there for Mother's Day gifts, which, as you know, Mother's Day is coming up here this Sunday. So if folks tune in time, what should we do? What's the scoop?
So I recently listened to last year's Mother's Day episode with Shaylin, and I'm not sure that I could top her list of gifts because it was pretty amazing. But I got to thinking, I read a book over Christmas break, and it was Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages. And so, Devin, can you share that link? You have it? To the document I made?
You better have it.
If not, I can share it, but I don't know if I can share it and talk at the same time. But anyway, his love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And so, and I know that sounds different than it actually is, but I created a little document with just ideas of basically, I think what you need to do is find your wife's love language and do things that speak to her love language, not just on Mother's Day, but all year long. Gary Chapman's kind of thinking behind that is that we all have a primary love language, and whatever your love language is the love language that you tend to give. And I think this is true of your children too. And I think of Gracie, our 11-year-old. She is a words of affirmation gal, if I've ever heard it. Several times a day, we're very fortunate for this. It's great. Several times a day, she says, "I love you so much. You're the best mom in the world. I'm so proud of you." All of these wonderful things. But that is clearly her love language. And so we need to be giving that love language to her as well. So that is kind of my Mother's Day idea for you all, is to do so. Like for words of affirmation, you might send your wife a nice text message or a card telling her how much you appreciate her. Acts of service are just those things that you do every day to help, whether, and some of it can be going out and providing for your family by working. But just doing, running interference for her while she's watching her favorite TV show. You could take care of the kids or answer the phone or whatever. So I have just the different love languages listed and just a few ideas there. Devin, did you ever share it?
I can't find it.
Hold on.
Oh, I found it. Yeah.
You got it? Okay, because I think it'll make more sense when you can actually look at it. But
that's
anyway.
very cool, though. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's really neat. I appreciate that advice. I'm always looking to be a better husband.
Well, and
there's a way to meet her on some sort of language that I'm unfamiliar with. Because the thing I've found, Erin, is I can't read minds. And sometimes my wife thinks I should be able to read her mind. And maybe there's some sort of love language in there that I can figure out. No, I do that. In all seriousness, no, that's really cool. I'll have to definitely check that out.
Yeah, there's a link to the website that just has a quiz, and you can do it for yourself. I think it's equally as interesting to do it for your children, just to figure out. Like Claire's a physical touch girl. She likes to hold your hand. She likes to have her back tickled. Just things like that. Mm-hmm. But it really is, and we again tend to, if you're not a physical touch person, you're going to be like, get off of me. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting, insight into what other people might be thinking.
Another way of looking at it, because my kids are so young yet, and granted, I already see so many different personalities forming. I'm sure your daughters are older than my children, obviously, but I don't know. That's something interesting too to us that we're kind of watching unfold, and there's definitely a difference there in their personalities. And I've heard of love language stuff, or I may have heard of this book before, or the thing you're referencing. So I'm gonna actually have to dig in
Yeah,
because
and I usually don't read books like that. But I had just heard about it. I think I had some iTunes money for Christmas, and so I purchased the book and read it in like a matter of just a couple days. And some of it, I mean, admittedly, is really, really cheesy. But just in general, I just thought that the idea of it, it made me think that, wow, there are certain things that I really do appreciate, when Devin or whomever does, more so than others. Like for me, the receiving gifts thing is one of them. And that doesn't mean that you need like a diamond necklace. It can be something little like a single flower or bringing a coffee or something like that. For me, that's like I would way rather have quality time, just hanging out together. But different people need different things. So I think if you can tap into like what your own love language is and possibly what your spouse's is, then you might not only have a happy Mother's Day, but a happier rest of the year as well.
We actually talked about the 5 love languages. We teach baptism classes at our church, and we talked about it this weekend, and now I'm going to have to go back and figure out what she said.
You should have been taking notes.
I should have. I was not. Oh, anyway. Getting back to a little bit about the teacher and parent, and one of the things that we typically ask guests, as you know, because you do listen to the show, is how does being a teacher impact you as a parent, and as your kids have progressed through the school system, how has your attitude towards what you do changed, or how has it been affected?
When I first started teaching, I was 22 years old and teaching kindergarten at the time. And I remember sitting down at one of my first parent-teacher conferences and I was talking to a dad, and I was telling him what a great kid his daughter was and just how well-behaved she was, and she listens and she works hard and all this stuff. And his jaw just dropped, and he was shocked. And he was like, "Well, you're kidding me, because at home she does this and that, and whatever." And I'm just thinking, "Oh, nice parenting, buddy," But I didn't have kids. And then once I had kids of my own, I mean, it is true that your children tend to listen to other adults better than they do you, and that doesn't make you a bad parent. That's just kind of who they're comfortable with. So I think in general, in terms of being a parent impacting me as an educator, it's made me more empathetic towards other parents. It also makes me think of that article I know Devin and Josh both shared on Facebook, and I think I ended up sharing it too, where it was that dad who had the child with some sort of food allergy, and then just the kind of the message behind it, was they're everybody's, the kid that annoys you, it's somebody's kid. And that's so true. I mean, just kind of being empathetic towards kids in general and parents in general, that all of these kids and their issues and the great things that they bring to school and the more challenging things, they're somebody's child. And so being a parent has definitely helped me understand that more than anything. And what was the other half of that question? How?
The other way, as being a teacher impacted you as a parent.
Yeah.
I think just having a better understanding, I mean, it kind of goes back to the empathy piece again, having a better understanding of what's expected of them and kind of what their day is like. I think sometimes we come home, and we're still guilty of this, where they come home and we're like, okay, you need to, do your homework and practice your guitar and, help unload the dishwasher and do all these things, when they have had, a pretty challenging day at school too. So I think just understanding what's expected of them. I love, again, it goes back to like being the IB coordinator and being in the same building that my kids go to, but knowing what the expectations are is super helpful. I mean, just starting way back from, before going to preschool, even just reading at home every day, to like one of the big pieces of IB is that expectation that students will take action as a result of their learning. So like me knowing that that's an expectation and knowing, what they're learning in their units of inquiry and looking for those things, little changes in their thinking and in their lives. I think that's something I wouldn't be able to do if I didn't have the knowledge as an educator.
That's a good point. Well,
how about
Erin, oh, go ahead. sorry.
I was just going to ask one more thing about if she could, do you want to share anything marathon yesterday, about being a parent doing that, or about coming in a few minutes behind me? Any of those things you want to talk
Wow.
about?
Yeah, that was tough. If I would have known how close I was to catching him, we started in waves, and Devin and Gracie started ahead of me, and little did I know I was slowly catching up to Devin, but he ended up beating me by 2 minutes, and I definitely could have shaved 2 minutes off my time. No, but it was an experience. The whole training with Gracie for the half marathon. It was an experience that I'm glad I got to share with Devin. The first year that I did it with Gracie, it was very rewarding, but then also challenging too, because when she is struggling, and wants to stop and walk or something like that, and I'm tired and I'm struggling too. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm just
hi.
proving that we're in the same house.
Okay. We shut the door because there's an echo. It's hard to keep going. Running is hard anyway. It's hard to keep going for her. But finishing that race with her last year, we did stick together throughout the whole race. And I think obviously I held her back considering she shaved a half an hour off of her time this year. But we crossed the finish line holding hands together. And I was very happy that she and Devin could train together and run together and support each other as well. It's pretty awesome to find something that your child really excels at, and I think it's kind of rare that you get to share in that with them. It's all running that half marathon together, and it was challenging for all of us. So it was kind of a unique experience as a parent.
That's a good point. There's very few sports that you can, golf would be another good one, but there's not very many sports that you can do over different age levels. I know when Maddox was 5, we did a 5K downtown together around the College World Series, and that was my concern the first year was, well, I don't want to have to be carrying this kid, at the end of 3 miles, and so I made him walk. And yeah, the next year we actually spent more time. It was pouring the second year, so we hung out in the grounds crew area, and we still beat our time from last year by 3 minutes. So I agree. Yeah, I was so worried about how bad he was going to do when really he was fine. He's not much for training though. He's a game day runner. He doesn't really want to go out and jog for better or worse. And fortunately, he's still got short enough legs that I don't have to do a lot of training to keep up with him for a 3-mile run.
It goes by fast.
I know, yeah. Well, Erin, thank you very much for joining us. We have a few more things. Would you like to stick around, or do you need to go clean up Devin's supper?
I probably better make sure the children made it to bed because they were putting themselves to bed tonight.
Okay,
so,
good luck with that. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
we really
you guys.
do appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Erin.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, I have the app and site for the week, and I'll put this on the Dads and Ed Twitter account. The YouTube Kids app has been out for a while. I don't know if we've covered this, if we have mentioned it, but basically what YouTube has done, and it's free for, and now Erin's on Devin's screen. It's Android and iOS. Basically, YouTube has taken all of the kid-friendly stuff that is on YouTube and put it into an app, and that is the only stuff that you can access. So, like, we had an issue a couple years ago where we had the kids watching Sesame Street. Well, that Sesame Street led to Katy Perry's appearance on Sesame Street, which led then to Katy Perry music videos. So you can see the bad rabbit hole that we were going down. So, at least with YouTube Kids app, you're able to have a little bit more curated content. It still does like kids. It does everything. It has like Sesame Street. It does Kids Bop, which you can kind of. It's borderline kids stuff. They're getting pretty close these days with some of the songs they're covering, but not to sound like an old man telling you to get off my lawn, but Thomas the Train, like a whole bunch of stuff. So I do feel more comfortable turning the kids loose with that. They don't have the suggested videos. Well, they have suggested videos, but it's not like it's everything in YouTube. It's all handpicked. So I'll tweet that out, but the YouTube Kids app, make sure to check that out. Brent, you're up next.
Yeah, and I just want to echo that, Josh. I really appreciate that app with my kids as well. I just feel a lot more comfortable walking away for 5 minutes and 10 minutes and then not coming back and finding them on something completely inappropriate or wondering what the heck they're listening to. So I have also enjoyed that app as well. Okay, so I have Twitter follow tonight, and I'm going to go over here and tweet. My Twitter follow is at Mr. Arnote. And that's at Mr. MR, and then Arnote is spelled Arnote. His name is Sage Arnote. He is a tech integration coach in my district, works for me in the realm of tech integration things and instructional coach. He kind of wears a hat of many different hats, I should say, and just really appreciate working with Sage. He's an extremely knowledgeable cat. Great guy, father himself. Got to travel up to NEDA with him this last, whatever that was, week or so, a couple weeks ago already, and just enjoyed hanging out with him at the different NEDA events in the evening as well as at the conference, and certainly our car ride up and back. I just enjoyed the conversation, and I know he does a great job and is a great resource, has a lot of great resources built on Google in particular, and does a great job, and is certainly a great resource and someone to follow.
Awesome. Devin.
Very cool. I'm going to start by bringing back something we did for a while and haven't been back to, and that's date night spot. And then I'll share another quick thing. But I'm going to share a place called Pig and Finch in Omaha. And we went there the other night with some friends, actually, and it was just a great, really great place. We enjoyed our food. It's kind of a farm-to-table food in Omaha, and I think I had Parmesan-crusted swordfish, and Erin had a spring gnocchi, and it was really good stuff, and not terribly overpriced. But if you're in Omaha, Pig and Finch is actually a great restaurant, and I think they actually are owned by an Iowa couple, hence the name, Finch being the state bird, and they were farmers with pigs. So good place to go in Omaha that if you haven't been there before. I know there's one out on, was that One Pacific Place, like 108th and Pacific. So it's a great restaurant if you're in Omaha. And then I just want to talk quickly, it's not something, an event that's coming up that's not open to anybody to go to necessarily, but I have really enjoyed, kind of Josh and I have created hopefully some summer learning opportunities for teachers in our district, and I know we were both kind of pleasantly surprised. We sent out a form to both staffs last week, and pleasantly surprised to see that the next day there were about 70 folks who had already said yes to something we want to do. And so, anytime you create something new like that, you're not sure how it's going to go, and granted, we haven't actually had them yet, so nobody may come, but we've had, we've got like 75, 76 people right now that are saying, yeah, we'd like to do that, and we're starting to figure out what that's going to look like, and we're trying to pull, our two staffs from our two districts together and give them kind of a chance to collaborate with each other and meet each other and work with us, and I know in the couple of conversations that we've had, we're both really excited about this opportunity and maybe even doing some additional things next year with this. So our summer learning series, we're hoping to get kicked off this summer, early June, and then kind of early to mid-August. And I don't know if Josh has anything he wants to echo that or say something different, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it's one of those endeavors we're a little worried about at the start, and it's been nice to see some of the affirmation that it's a good idea.
Yeah, I would agree. It's our staff has been really excited about the opportunity. For a variety of reasons, there's not any Google Summits up in our area this year, and or this summer, which normally there's two, and there's not any. So they're excited for the opportunity to be able to sit and learn something new. And one of the things just with the layout of the event, we're doing half days, and we're going to let teachers have 2 hours of open time. And that was one of the things that I was really excited about is, they can ask Devin, they can ask me. We've got a couple people that have volunteered to come over too if we need it, and just to kind of walk around and just give them time. That's what we hear always. That, well, yeah, that's great to learn, but we don't have the time to do it. But I think it'll be good, and excited to get some things out. It should be good.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that turned out very well. I think I'm ready for Mother's Day. We're good to go. Next time we have a little special event. So May 18th in 2 weeks is going to be our last one for the school year, and then we'll take a little break, probably until the 1st of August. But early on we talked about how Techlandia was a huge support to us and just kind of getting things set up, and them along with a few other podcasts, we listen to kind of see, what do we want to pick from that, what do we want to pick from this, and what we've found is that on most nights, and I don't think tonight, but on most nights at 9 o'clock, Techlandia starts, and they do like an every Monday show, and so we thought that'd be kind of cool to have kind of a joint podcast going on. So May 18th, we're still working out all the details. It sounds like it'll probably be about the same time, either 8:30 or 9 o'clock. We are going to join up with John Samuelson and Carl Lindgren Stryker, and I don't know if they have like a rotating set of hosts that they do, but I think it's going to be those two for sure, and possibly Victoria Olsen joining in as well. So we are dubbing it Dadlandia because Tech and Ed doesn't really have a funny ring to it, so we'll stick with Dadlandia. But it should be good. Make sure to check out our Twitter account at Dads and Ed as we get closer, and we'll figure out all the details. But it'll be fun to have them on. If you haven't heard them, I believe it's at Techlandia Radio. And I'm going to figure that out real quick. At Techlandia Radio, you can check out some of their archives. They have a similar format with Google Hangout on air, and do some publishing things a little bit differently, but it should be good. So, all right. Well, good luck on Mother's Day, gentlemen. Hope everything goes well.
Oh yeah.
And other than that, we'll see everyone in 2 weeks.
Perfect.
All right. Good night, everybody.